Hi there, Gauri. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm there. We're live on YouTube, no? Okay, we're on.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to another weekly session of Dil Ki Baatein with me, Gouri Dange, family counselor and writer. We have been since November, late November, doing these weekly sessions on Dil Ki Baatein, matters close to the heart. And we've covered a range of questions up here from interpersonal issues between couples themselves, between them and their children, between colleagues, the thing of reducing, slowly retiring, reducing your exposure. All kinds of questions come up from people who are uh, relooking at some of the arithmetic of our life. It changes as we age. Um, this time we have a question which is usually, if there's a thing between generations, it's been with somebody asking us how to deal with some aspect of their grown children and dealing with their grown children. This time it is somebody, the theme is about when seniors have to take care of their own parents, super seniors, and what happens to the dynamics there. So a rather troubled letter from Parul L, somebody who's we call Parul L. It says, "Hello, ma'am. I find your discussions very fair and non-judgmental. You see things from all sides. Today, I'm writing for myself, but also for you to bring this topic up for others who may be going through similar situation. I'm 65 and just lost my 92-year-old mother. We had a difficult relationship right from when I was young because I was a rebel. She was strict, and I had many issues with the way she behaved within the family, with my dad, my brother, with my grandparents, and socially too. Once I had my own family, I did not see a lot of my mother, and she led her own independent life, her own circles. Last 7 years, I have been the primary caregiver to her with a nurse. I had to move into her house in a nearby town as she refused to move into my place. My husband had to manage mainly on his own during this time. Now that she's gone, I feel drained, angry, and also ashamed at myself for continuing our old problems with each other, even in her last years. I did not mistreat her, but I went on trying just to get her to uh, look at her own mistakes, at least at the end of her life, to see her own behavior in the past due to which most of the family avoided her, including my brother and her own siblings. My husband and daughter tried to tell me to just let it go, but I could not. Now she's gone, I still can't let my anger go at myself mostly. I am trying. This is Parul L. So I'm sure many of us have dealt with this in small and big measure with this kind of situation. Uh, if it is outright, if an older person has outright dementia, Alzheimer's, labeled as that, clearly the behavior is showing that, it may be a little, it is still tiresome and, tragic and angering and frustrating, all those things. But you have a reason. You have a clearly told reason, and you can go on reminding yourself. But if the person has not gone into that zone, and there is only from what she's describing, an ongoing of a peace with the past, an ongoing behavioral issue going on. A person who has had behavioral issues. Um, she's a functioning person, but it's a kind of possibly a personality disorder or whatever it was. And there is a history of that between the caregiver, in this case, in most of our cases, a daughter or a daughter-in-law, son or a son-in-law, uh, and that it is only getting worse as they age. But there's nothing new. It is not a cognitive issue. It is nothing that needs to be understood in a completely new light. And yet, to save oneself from the kind of aggravation and sadness and what that she's outlining in this letter, to save us from that, it does have to be, um, in a way, the strategy to deal with this person partially must be the same way that you would with somebody who's gone beyond change, or beyond being able to see themselves, whose mind has kind of gone. And what is that strategy? One thing I think is most important thing. It is, and we've used this word in the case of husband and wife who are on a bad wicket as they age also, which is detachment, which is disengaging from the person. While you may keep doing all the things that are needed, but a certain disengagement is absolutely called for. And we have to keep in mind that this is a kind of compassionate detachment, and that compassion is for that person and for you too, both. And it does not mean that you care less or that you abuse or that you neglect, but taking care of yourself and setting some personal limits so that you are not every morning running into a new kind of battle with this person. It is not, firstly, we have to know that this is not selfish to set boundaries and limits. To get external help is not selfish if you have it. To have a start by end by time at which the actual quantum of time that you spend with the person, deciding what you can do and can't do, that is not selfish. And even the quality of what you're doing for them. I think it's very, see, she's feeling foolish, but it's not foolish. She just got onto that treadmill that now at least change, now at least change. She's trying to coach her mother, I think. It's almost like a life coach. Too late in the game, too late in the game, you know. And त्याच्यात म्हणजे in Marathi we call it ती त्याच्यात जिजली. Jizzly is to, what is the word for jizna? You got diminished, like, your skin came off almost in trying to do this. And mentally she got extremely, became like some kind of abrasive situation. And when we are talking about, she says, I didn't abuse her, I didn't mistreat her. But the fact is there that that word abuse and mistreatment works sometimes the other way around. An older aging person, and if there's a history of being either extremely strong-willed or a bully or a hypercritical person or a manipulator, suppose, I don't know, she's not told us, but I'm saying, if there is a parent who you have dealt with all these things in their personality, if there's that already, I'm saying the word abuse and mistreatment can be coming from that. These things can be coming from the older person to the caregiver, to the child, however aging the child herself or himself is. So in this, practicing what they call compassionate detachment, I mean, it's so easy to say this word, and I'm sure it is so hard to do. But it is our homework, I think, if we are in a situation like this. It is our daily homework. Once I had got a letter, I had not got a letter, in a writing workshop that I did about using creative writing to understand yourself better, to understand your relationships better. One of the things which is a common device is to write a letter which nobody reads, the person writes it themselves. Write the letter that you never wrote to your parent. Not necessarily, mostly not to give it, but to be able to say everything you want to say. After so much water has gone under the bridge, to say what you want to say without fear of being, that person being hurt, or that person being angry, or that person giving safai and saying, no, you misunderstood me, without engagement. But to be able to really put down why you are hurting, why you yourself are hurting. And in that letter, in one of these exercises, some of them chose to send me the letters. And I remember so specifically that a lady in a very similar situation was now looking after a father who was an intellectual and, high achiever and all of this, but now was old, very critical of her, forced her into, education and PhD and high achieving in education, going into academics when she didn't really want all this history between them. And now here he was. She had managed to stay, they kept arm's distance. But here came a time like hers where there's nobody else and you are looking after this person. And I remember the phrase just stuck in my head because she said, I think now, after a long letter to him, at the end, she said, now I think my only way to handle this and to cope with this is to tell myself that you are a random old person assigned to me by the state to look after. And it sounds, either funny or grotesque or cold or mean, but this is she's saying nothing less and nothing more. Assigned to me. It's where you're accepting that you have a duty towards X old person, an old person. And the state has randomly picked up a chit and given you, it's as if by that action, she is hoping to now just completely detach from the past and yet be compassionate because an old person has been assigned to you. You have to look after their needs. So I felt it was a very very telling device. She was saying it half bitterly, half humorously. But you get what this person is trying to do, to find a way to not be so bound up and caught up, and to be, dutiful and yet resentful at the same time. I think that's the twist, right? Even here, that you're being dutiful, but you're being resentful. Can't help being very resentful because of the history with this person. So I do think that one of the devices is this, this practicing this compassionate detachment it gives you, first of all, the permission to look after yourself and not get so fully drawn into it. A random person assigned to you by the state, you don't take charge of how, there's no always. You don't know only what that person did always. So now you're in the here and now, and whatever this person is saying or doing is not loaded with history. And when you change your perspective like this, I think, it may help you to avoid acting out of that combination of fear, anger, guilt, that cocktail, toxic cocktail that must be coming up, bubbling up for this person every time. And look at look at the sadness that the person is gone, but the person might as well still be there. She's still so burdened by this. You know, the frustration is probably even more that now you're not even mere samne baithe bhi nahi ho, that I can shake you and get you to change, which would seem to have been her thing. And there's also, a thing, and I am adding here, she's not said it, but I'm saying there's also, let this be a warning to anyone who's come to this pass, that now it's not just time to detach from that, but to reconfigure how you will be with your next generation. And I'm going to just touch on this phrase that's all over now, and we'll talk about that in some other context later, but this is what they call the passing on of generational trauma, where I remember last time somebody had talked about this, which is um, where they said that, I belong to a hyper critical family. We're all into telling each other what's wrong with you, and not people who are able to, generationally. Should mention that they're generationally like this. So to change your perspective and say that, okay, maybe the buck has to stop here. The way I'm going to age, what I'm going to do, and it's still not too late to change the way I engage with my children. She mentions a daughter. And now for that, then to examine, and this is the hard part. It's so easy to say my horrible mother, and list all the horrible things she did. But which of it has quietly leached into you? Which of it, and we'll talk much more about this later in another context, which of it is not leached into you, but you have been so traumatized by how, say, one parent has behaved that you have vowed, this I'll never do. This I will never do. I will never behave like this. And in that vow, you become again, you burden your children with some other thing, which is in not being that. I give you a simple example. I used to know this family which was closely. I knew them close. And you all must know, you must be knowing कि ऐसे भी बहुत लोग हैं. I think maybe more so in our culture, I don't know, where they feel very free to talk about each other's or somebody else's physical attributes, looks, you know, all the time. If somebody enters a room, that person will be given an update. Moti ban gayi, tu patli ban gayi. Today you're looking nice. Last week you're looking very fat. Just personal physical comments. Now, this was going on from, I knew from the great grandmother's time. One particular generation decided that this is terrible. This is what we used to do and all. And, she told her children also, this is how we were all. But in her way of calling halt to it or changing the flow was not to stop it, but was to turn inwards and joke about her own looks. But still, she was still stapled to that thing of, engaging with people over their looks. How you look today, how you look tomorrow, this doesn't suit you, that doesn't suit you. And turned it sort of in a, neurotic, kind of a neurotic joke about herself. And then she used to feel very, I don't say anything to anybody. I only joke about myself. I need to lose a few kilos. I think I need to stop dyeing my hair. I need to, I just joke and joke. But the elephant in the room is still there, which is a very looks-driven conversation, way of engaging. Move to next generation. The daughter of this person felt, bahut ho gaya, this is too much, too silly. But again, instead of finding a healthier thing, this is what we best know to do, see, so we do it this way. She became so from hypercritical, so hyper praising of her children, that it became like from when they were very small, every time they entered the room in a party, if they saw, isn't my so-and-so looking gorgeous, isn't this, overcompensating, to the point where the daughter, by the time she was 16 or 17, started telling her friends that I must be very, very awful looking, that my mother has to boost me up so much all the time. So you're still, it is intergenerational trauma. You think you're handling it, but you're still not getting off that whole spot where looks is a mainstream, it's on the table all the time, how somebody's looking. And only if somebody will, in that chain of women, just dismantle this thing. Maybe for some time, even, vow internally to absolutely dial down looks-led conversations about other people, about self, and about your own children. That may become a good way of putting a check dam to this flow of intergenerational trauma. And in the same way, if whatever Parul's mother was perpetrating, whether it was being hypercritical, manipulative, whatever stuff, I think she's feeling so bad about it, and just feeling lost and exhausted. Maybe some of her energies can be used in just re-looking at what you disliked so intensely, what you were trying till her last breath to tell her mother to change, to turn inwards and see which of it has, in what form, has crept into your behavior with your own other people or your own children. And that may be more constructive homework for her currently to do, to watch herself, to watch how you phrase things, to watch how you make people feel, all the things that she thinks her mother has badly failed at It could be any of us who uh, relate to this question. It would be our work to just stand back and say, neither go into that, I would never do this, I have learned from my mother, I would never, but see in what other forms this has come to you. The other things, of course, too, well, before it comes to this, maybe understand where your mother's nasty, not so that you abuse, accommodate from her, not that you say, oh, poor thing, she was abused when she was a kid, so now I can't, now she can't help it, she has to, I have to put up with this, but to at least know the fuel tank. If ye sabka ye, what is driving this woman like this, to at least get some sense of it. And then your compassionate detachment is easier, because you understand where she's coming from. You know she's not going to change, she's gone beyond the pale, but you can detach. You can detach. Uh, one thing, when we are saying that, be very aware that you do not have to be guilty, or you do not have to feel that you have to overextend yourself. You must have boundaries as to how much you'll do. One of the big boundaries is also to work at not getting hooked by your this older person who's at whose hands you faced maybe abuse or criticism or verbal abuse, or dismissing, whatever it is, to just not make yourself available for it. And for that, it's work. And I think some people may have to really take the help of uh, professionals to arrive at that spot where you say, I have outlined all the hooks she puts out, but I have not been able to see all the loops that I put out where she can hook. Now let me work on the loops that I put out, like a Velcro thing, and not provide those. I have been over the years maybe unwittingly providing them. And so one of the detachment points is to not rise to the bait, not take the person very seriously, not be physically available be physically available only as much as you can stand. So then these dysfunctional patterns of interaction, in which you provoke each other, and then the conversation, quickly becomes you said, she said, I said, you said, even then you used to do this, even now you are doing it, all of that. You kind of dismantle that stage. That part of the stage is now not there. We have dismantled it. It's hard work, but it's absolutely urgent. It is life-saving, I think. If you find yourself getting pulled into what Parul has outlined, into getting pulled into that circle of drama, and which well, the mistake here, I think, the real mistake is for us to think that all of us are in the same mold, where when we start seeing our mortality coming, the signs of our mortality, we will suddenly become this, pranayam meditation person. It's not going to happen, might not happen with us also. But to assume ki abhi to, you see her frustration, abhi to badlo. But that's the part of the compassionate detachment, I think, is to say, I have to change, I have to watch out from this. She will meet her maker, whatever it is, in her form. I'm not her life coach. I'm not a spiritual coach. You may say it once, or you may say it, try it also sometimes. But if this is a old entrenched pattern, um, this participating in this kind of very unproductive dialogue will only make the situation work, and will give again those loops that I'm talking about for the person to hook into. I feel that when we take on, sometimes it being a caregiver to somebody like this just falls in your lap. Can't do anything about it. But still, when it's coming towards you, when you feel you're going to have to do this thing, you must really check with yourself your physical health and your mental health and your financial health, about how much of this you can do, you know. Um, and again, it's not cold and detached to say, I can do this much. I know myself, I know my mother, I can do this much. I will do, but I cannot do. This is the outline of it. Uh, as it tends to happen, difficult people have less well wishers, and this person is seems to be stuck with doing it all herself because the lady has alienated everybody else. But still, I would say you need to get a very realistic measure of what you are emotionally capable of doing to care for a uh, I'm using the word abusive parent, but it may range from abusive to just very strong nuisance value behavior. And how this is going to, I think I think you also owe it to today to your spouse and yourself, of course, first, but your spouse and your I think there's a child here, uh, about how much. 7 years, she talks about 7 years doing this. And is it something, do you want to make your borders to this person less porous, maybe less porous? Because it's not easy to say, once this thing is over, I'll get back in shape. I will find my sanity. I will reconnect with my husband. I will reconnect with my daughter. I think it has to keep happening. And then you will tell yourself that this is also priority. It cannot be on hold. I mean, there is, of course, some living arrangements and all that change. But if you tell yourself that um, I can't let go my fitness, my fitness, relationship fitness on other fronts, with myself, my relationship with myself, and with my immediate family. Uh, one more thing that one thing is that you have to, there's a very simple thing that if you have always had a troubled relationship with somebody, it is not likely to get better. It is not likely to get better. Maybe once in a while, of course, we all know people. Of course, we know people where, there is what in Marathi is called paschatap. I don't know if that's the Hindi word, but great regret. I mean, not regret. What is it called? Uh, remorse. Remorse. And somebody was once telling me, I don't know if this is a common apocryphal story or this happened to this person, but where, she was mistreated by her mother-in-law forever. And then finally the father-in-law went, this woman's husband went. So there were just these two women. And this woman treated her very well, right till the end. And the woman asked her once that, how come, yeah, you had a chance to, you have a chance. I thought you will, abhi main aa gayi isme, because I've always been quite horrible to you. Now, even that recognition is unusual. And that lady's answer was that, but if I behaved it like that, then what's the difference between you and me? Is what was her answer, which is which is a really damning, gentle, but very damning answer, a damning reply, you know. So, if even when we use the word compassion, uh, there is also what in counseling they call part of the compassion to yourself. Now, I'm saying looking after your interests and also to that person, what they call a harm reduction approach. In counseling, it's called harm reduction. So, an approach that minimizes the negative consequences. Suppose you have a parent throwing a giant tantrum about hospital food or hospital type food, and says, no, I want my drink and I want my French fries. Harm reduction says that given the larger picture, give it to the person and leave the room. Leave the room so you're not witnessing it. Count the number of times that you are saying, what can I do? Do it with no Lo, khao, maro, not that. Okay. And then, because it is possible that the person is also got used to drawing you into the drama where you say, but daddy, this will happen, that will happen, that will happen.
Seniors taking care of super seniors.
Yes.
Gouri Dange, male Shubhangi.
Ah, Ambuja. Yes. Somebody's, you're telling somebody, kya? Ah,
Yeah, I was saying.
yeah, yeah. Fine, fine, fine. Yeah. So I'm saying this harm reduction approach is as much to save yourself as to mainly to save yourself, as to also not let it turn into a huge full blown uh, piece of drama that the person may be looking for. And again, let me repeat, I'm not talking about people who are dealing with Alzheimer's, dementia. I'm talking about personality issues that are coming up and getting worse. Uh, the other thing is to, as I was saying, to spend quality time with the other people in your life and not get so hijacked by the compulsions of looking after this person. You know what I was saying about her husband then being for 7 years kind of just managing on his own. And these are very precious times for seniors also, yeah. If she says she's 67, I think she says, that means from when she was 60 and her husband maybe a few years older, they have been really hijacked by this situation. And when Parul writes that now this thing is over for me, but please read this question out and please handle this question for others in the same situation. Taking from that, I'm saying that now it's done, but I would really feel that one has to be quite um, dispassionately look at what you're willing to do, what you're willing to lay out for the situation. If you get lost in the game and you're now reaching 67 and feeling really shredded, nothing merits that, I think. I think. You know, one more thing that I would say is that, okay, she was maybe trying to get her mother to understand. Now at least understand was her thing. The other thing is people may try to retaliate because you've now got drawn into a, you know, almost the fight between a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, almost that. So it's very important to not sit and think of how you will retaliate, however insensitive a thing the person is saying, to keep, to fight abuse with abuse in any scenario, but in this scenario will only create more problems. And so it's very important to walk away, and literally find, whether it's your pranayam class, your yoga class, a friend, a drink, outing with your daughter, uh, a little holiday is very important. Before, you take, before you decide strategy all the time, don't get caught up in strategy. I think that also diminishes you. You're strategizing how to, today I'll use the carrot, tomorrow I'll use the stick, day after I'll use tears, and this is how I'll get this person to comply. I don't think any of those quivers in the arrow should be used. Once one small thing is that uh, I would also warn us caregiver, if you're the caregiver for super senior, is to just also calibrate if you're expecting too much from the parent. Maybe expecting too much. Just see that you're not expecting um, good behavior of a very high order, or sometimes the person has been a very, very whatever, elegant, disciplined, um, mm, high achiever person. And so then you are still holding them to that measure. And that is another, I think, an area for a lot of skirmish because your expectation of that person. I don't know if some of you remember, we had a question from the person who said that she's retired, but her children and her daughter, grown daughter and granddaughter, keep, co-sewing her. Why are you watching Sas Bahu serial? Why do you have friends who are not the kind of intellectual thing you were? She was some very big finance ministry, retired from it. Why are you not writing a book? Why are you not on lecture tours? We should also be a little careful about what we are expecting from us super seniors. That's just a small side thing I want to add here. While we are, of course, here talking about a broadly situations where that super senior is angry, abusive, you've gone on the wrong side of each other. And to look at yourself, to look at your own self, at how much of those traits you also use to express frustration, or you may end up using things. So this is a very good time to take a very close look at how you are aging to, you know. Uh, One last thing, and I've put this in bold, is embrace your own life and your own family, even as you are uh, caring for your parent. Don't neglect yourself or other family members. This, I have put this again. Undermining relationships with your loved ones, just undermining them or putting them on very long hold can have long-term effects. You yourself will have the whole cocktail of, guilt and regret and anger and frustration and all of this. This is what I have to say about this. I look forward to you people's inputs on this. Anybody has anything to say about this or any question further from this? We will go later into, I did only in passing mention generational trauma as something, long-term stuff that's being carried on. But here in this particular situation, if anybody has, this kind of situation, I would love to hear from you people.
Hi Gauri, this is Mrinal.
Hi, Mrinal. Hi.
Just want to share a little humorous, at the same time strange kind of an incident.
Huh.
And I just put my video on. Sorry, I forgot. And that is, I have a mother who's 94, running 94th year.
Hmm.
And well, I don't per se physically look after her because fortunately she's very good, in a very good physical condition, mentally very sharp and still
Okay.
very much aware and good memory, etc., etc. But with age, naturally, she needs help. And so we have a 24-hour help organized for her in her own house because she's not happy staying anywhere else but her own house. She's very house proud, very comfortable in her own place, own bathroom, etc., etc.
Correct.
But since my father passed away without realizing that I could get busier than before looking after my mom, which I never expected because
Yeah.
she had a bout of bad pneumonia a couple of years ago, and naturally her strength is not as it used to be then. So, yeah, I go there every single day. She's just about 3 kilometers away from me. I make sure her provisions are there, her maids are running, scheduled correctly, etc., etc. Now that my brother, who doesn't live in good
Etc.
order,
etc. I'll just interrupt. You're saying etc. etc. sounds like a humongous task itself.
sometimes it is humongous, sometimes it's okay because I do it along with my own things. But
Huh.
sometimes it is a bit much like I am running to her house even 3 times a day,
Mm.
especially when the maid's change happens, you know, how the
Yeah.
bureaus work. So at that time, just to make them understand, train them, etc., I have been to her house 3 times at times, and she feels very guilty about it.
Okay.
But when my brother's here, who doesn't normally live in Pune,
Okay.
which he is right now, and he is unfortunately he's had a fracture and I is very worried and blah blah blah. The other day when I went to her and she looked through me and she continued talking about my brother's pain, and I said, I have come after 5 days. You realize that?
Mm.
Otherwise, I come to you every day. So she said, you can ask me how I am to start with.
Mm.
You
Mm.
haven't seen me for 5 days. And
Mm.
when you don't see me when he is not around, you
Mm.
say you didn't come for a day or two.
Huh.
And now when I've come after 5 days. So I
Yeah.
said, is this that mother-son thing? Or
Yeah.
is it some parents are very one-child track minded? You know what I mean? Is that at the
Yeah.
time, one child is very important.
Acha, like that. Huh.
Huh.
Also. Yeah. Yeah.
Son, I guess, especially for for that generation.
Hmm.
And I was a little hurt, and I'm not hurt per se, but I said, "What is this? I mean, she's not even giving me this much. Wow." Otherwise, said, "Here, have tea, have this, have that. What do you want to eat?" Like
Yeah.
a little kid. I said, "I don't do two things either. I'm not a child,
Yeah.
little child. I'm your child, but I'm not a little child.
Yes.
I'm also 69, and I have some. I mean, we have some thought process ourselves."
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but when this happened, then I realized, well, I can't call it abuse by any stretch of imagination, but that focus, that
Yeah.
attention giving
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
I did notice it even at this age, Gauri, and I was a
Yes.
little surprised that why is it bothering me?
Yeah.
But I did feel that I won't do this to my daughters when I'm that age, if I reach that age.
To be conscious of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and but good you spontaneously said it, because what
Uh,
you're talking here today, na, that you don't have to keep putting yourself on the back seat. You can be yourself, and you can be that child who says, "Are, don't take me for granted, man." It's a very
I
organic
meant that,
way of
yeah.
expressing,
I definitely meant that. And it's not that we have had bad relationship at all, but the usual mother-daughter things do happen.
Yeah.
And yes, Gauri, whatever you say, in India, having a son is a big deal. Having a son, it is a big deal. And uh, those who don't have a son, like I don't have son, I have two daughters. For me, it doesn't matter. But
Correct.
for mother,
Hmm.
especially when she has two sons and one daughter, I keep telling her, I said, daughters should be more special to you and
Yeah.
not two sons. You have only one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, but these
Correct.
things keep happening, and there are times when one gets irritated. But
Yeah.
like you are saying, that you have to kind of have that kind of detachment, and I bring it to in my head saying that, look, she's not going to change. Look, she's healthy. At least you don't have much responsibility. At
Ah,
least she's well looked after on financial level. So
ah,
in many ways, I'm in a much better position than most caregivers who would be, with all those things matter a lot.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm mobile, I can go
Ah,
to her anytime. So I
yes.
try to count all the
क्या
plus
कहते बेटे
points.
कितने दिन है
Yeah.
And
हाँ
And you're
हाँ
able
ठीक है
so that's that, Gauri. That's the only thing. I
yeah.
thought it
एक
was
मिनट बेटे
a funny
Yes,
incident to share,
it's
so I
a,
thought I'd share
it's a
it with
telling one. It is a
you.
telling. Glad you
Yeah,
gave that. It's telling in its own way,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
So nice session. I enjoyed
टांगो
it.
Thank you.
But
Thank you. Good,
difficult,
good
like
you attended. You attended.
planned detachment and compassionate detachment, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if one could do that, nothing like it, but I don't think it's really very easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy because that there can't be a thumb rule which you'll follow every day.
Yeah,
Also,
right.
different things manifest themselves. But I think when there is
वो कल के दिन है
a case like this,
बाकी मैं देख लूंगी
it
कितना
does
दिन है
not, where there is personality disorder, which is hooking, which is troubling her, and she's having to deal with it.
Yeah,
There, I think some these borders and these boundaries will have to,
yes,
thought up and stuck to, I think,
yeah.
so that you are not being emotionally hijacked every time.
And one more thing, Gauri, me and my few friends, including my friend who's here right now, Anjali Datar,
Acha.
there are 5, 6 of us who have mothers who are 92 plus, and we keep sharing these things with each other. My mother said this, your mother said that,
Yes,
and how
yes,
we should try
yeah.
and tell each other that, okay, you are doing exactly like what your mother has been doing. Stop
Uh-huh.
it.
Very
Yeah.
well. It's a
We
support group which is not just saying,
yeah.
a group which is not just saying we are great, and
Yeah.
how much we are suffering. You're
Yeah,
keep
so be
valid.
each other's counselor. That's what we are being, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
At
yes.
least me and Anjali, we do that.
Oh, Anjali has her hand up. Hi, yes, hi, Anjali. Welcome to the show.
See, I completely agree to this emotional detachment. I try that as much as possible. But
Ah,
as Mrunal says, there are certain times, there are certain words, which are really hurtful. Like
hmm,
my mother will be coming to me and staying with us for next around say 3 months because my brother will be going to US.
ah,
Right from day one, she'll look at the calendar. आज एक दिवस गेला, आज अजून एक दिवस गेला, and that sort of
of
thing,
course,
And
of
every
course.
time she has to come and stay with us. She somehow doesn't reconcile to the idea that when my son is not there, I have to go and stay with my daughters.
Yeah, yeah.
And two of us are there, so we share her when she is
Yes.
here.
Ah.
But no. And then when I say something, when I say की अगं मी मुलगीच आहे ना तुझी, then she'll say it is something different. ते वेगळं असतं. मुलीकडे राहणं वेगळं असतं.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your emotional detachment goes for a toss when
Yes.
she says.
But I'm just saying, to learn from this, which is, when we are faced with this, when we are the older person, to at least learn this thing, that learn to not, I don't know, it's easy to say once we cross 90, we have
Yes.
what is called, what is that word, where you have no filters, you just talk what comes in your mind, possibly. But to be maybe able to know what to say and what not to say. You may think it, but why say it to your caregiver? I wonder if that's something to train your mind to, must you speak every thought that comes into your head? That itself is a training. That itself is a training.
Like training her is beyond my capabilities.
No,
I think
for ourselves.
for anybody's capabilities, it is for me to
For
train
ourselves.
myself not to
Yes.
feel hurt. But
Yeah.
like as Mrinal said, there are certain times and there are certain words which do.
Absolutely. No, but I'm
It
saying,
is easier said than done, you can say.
yeah. No, I wonder if we can, how do we manage to hang on to these learnings for when we are in their position? Whether
And then the
somewhere.
thing like Mrinal said,
Huh.
few of our friends have mothers who are elder. My own mother is 92. She has completed 92. So we talk to each other and just get the whole thing out of our mind. I
Yeah.
think that is a good what you can say, निचरा मराठीमध्ये ज्याला म्हणतो आपण
Outlet
की
kind of,
just out of our system.
Yes, absolutely. And to be able to also to take that time off and guilt-free, be able to complain, be able to come up with strategies, all of that guilt-free. You're not sitting there, just
Yes.
burai of your elders, isn't it? You're talking about how to face the situation.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Anjali, and thanks for coming also today. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gauri. It was very nice.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else to say? Deepali? Yes.
Yeah, I feel immensely sorry for Parul for still feeling so bad.
Yeah.
And
It's haunting
also,
her.
I think that even if her mother was in her late 80s when she goes to her and moves to a place, I also think it is very unreal to expect a person of that age to acknowledge their mistakes, to accept or acknowledge that they have made mistakes, because I think people also conveniently forget what they have done or said or how they have hurt people. And that is unreal. That she's setting herself up for misery and for failure. I don't think an old person would be willing to either to listen or to accept. Both things seem unreal to me. But at the same time, I feel terribly sorry that she is hurting the way she is. And yes, I think that the takeaway is to practice compassion all the time in our speech, with our children, with our loved ones, because life is short. We don't know what kind of oldies we're going to turn into. I mean, we're already not all that, no spring chickens anyway, but I think to retain filters and to, I think filters are very important even now. My husband says he's 70, he can say anything. No, you can't. You have to still be cautious in what you say. You can't hurt people by just being blunt, or you don't have to talk all the time.
I missed just the thing before you said that. There was a glitch in my internet.
Yeah, there was.
What did you say?
Yeah. I know, I saw you.
Huh.
What did I say before what? What did I say?
How did you get to
I
this?
said
What subject about? Not
one
being.
thing is that See, I thought that Parul was unreal in expecting a 87-year or 88-year-old person to acknowledge or accept her mistakes or toxic behavior.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
unreal because people forget.
Too late. Too late.
And in your own narrative, in your own life story, you're never the villain.
Yeah,
You are not the
correct.
villain in your own story. However villainous you may be, it's
Correct.
always other people who make you into villains or whatever. So
Yeah,
that was one thing. But the biggest takeaway is to train yourself in compassion at whatever age you are. That your speech should be compassionate.
yeah,
Your speech should be considerate. However old you are, because if you practice it now, by the time, if one lives to be 80 or 90, hopefully one would
yes.
remain a compassionate and nice old person rather than a horrid
So
monster who,
that's
you
the
know,
connection you were saying, where
yeah.
you said your husband said, now I'm old, I'll
Yeah,
say
he
what I
says,
want.
I'm 70, I can say what I like. I said, no, sorry, you can't. You
No,
can't because, I mean, you might tell me something in private which annoys you about XYZ,
correct.
but you could hurt your
No,
children by being,
yeah,
don't do that. Try
yeah,
not to do it. And I personally, I mean, I think the Quaker thing of before the three gateways, is it true?
Ah,
Is it kind? Is it necessary? So I'd
truly,
rather stay shut.
yeah,
Is it,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
important. And we have to
yeah,
train ourselves to be that.
yeah.
And I hope
That's
Parul recovers somehow from all the trauma she's been through.
yeah, correct. Yeah. No, and it's for us to take our takeaway, all of us, this is that maybe you can, not change your personality fully, but to at least put some checks and balances in how you are
Yeah.
functioning children as you age,
I mean, if you want to bitch about a public figure, bitch about Trump.
Yeah.
Why not? But be good to the people who are around you.
Yeah, correct. But I think there's a history here of somebody who's literally
No,
doesn't know how. Yeah,
the old lady sounds very,
yeah,
a very
very tough.
complicated and unhappy person, or what we used to describe as dementors.
Dementor.
Hai
Yeah,
I mean, if you live with a dementor, it's draining, it kills you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really hard.
yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. Shall we stop here? Anyone has anything else to say? I'll tell you next week's theme. Next week's, just in case anybody has any hands up anywhere, let me just. I've switched to my phone because this thing did a blip like this. So my screen is very small. So next week's theme is about social anxiety. Somebody's written in about trying to find the balance between being, as they age, between being social, attending functions, accepting invitations, but fighting the feeling that you want to not be social at all, and why don't people leave me alone? So there's almost a social anxiety and awareness that you can't become a recluse, shouldn't. But there's anxiety related now to any kind of requirement to be social. We'll talk about this next week. Yeah. Okay. Let's close here. Krish, Rahul, who's on, please put the details on the number, especially on the chat, all the details about Gen S Life. Thank you, everybody. See you again next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful session, by the way. Really
Yes.
very interesting.
Good.
Extremely interesting.
And a reality for a lot of people currently. The
Yes.
arithmetic is that, the
Bye-bye.
longevity. Yes. Bye.